The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck often comes down to one simple habit: taking action immediately. The moment you feel the urge to do something meaningful, that is your window of opportunity. Most people ignore it. They pause, they hesitate, they start analyzing every possible outcome, and in doing so, they lose the very energy that could have moved them forward. Action is powerful because it breaks the cycle of overthinking. When you act quickly, you silence doubt before it grows. You stop giving your mind the time to create excuses. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you shift to, "What can I do right now?" That small shift changes everything. You don't need to have a perfect plan to begin. In fact, waiting for perfection is one of the biggest reasons people never start. Progress is built through imperfect action. When you take the first step, even if it's small, you create momentum. And once momentum begins, it becomes easier to keep going. Immediate action also builds confidence. Every time you act without delay, you prove to yourself that you are capable, decisive, and in control. Over time, this becomes a habit. You stop being someone who waits, and you become someone who executes. The truth is simple. Success is not about knowing more. It's about doing more. And doing more starts with acting now, not later. An idea may feel powerful in the moment, but its strength is temporary. When inspiration strikes, it brings energy, excitement, and a sense of possibility. However, that feeling does not last forever. If you don't act on it, your mind begins to question it. What once felt like a great idea slowly starts to seem risky, unrealistic, or unnecessary. This is how ideas fade. Not because they were bad, but because they were delayed. The longer you wait, the more space you give to doubt. Your brain is naturally wired to protect you, so it starts highlighting potential problems instead of possibilities. You begin to overanalyze, imagining worst-case scenarios, seeking perfect conditions, and waiting for certainty. But certainty rarely comes before action. What started as excitement turns into hesitation. Hesitation turns into fear. And eventually, fear leads to inaction. At that point, the idea loses its emotional power. It becomes just another thought you once had but never pursued. Understanding this pattern is important because it teaches you that timing matters. Acting quickly is not about rushing blindly, it's about capturing the energy of the moment before it disappears. When you take even a small step, you keep the idea alive. You give it a chance to grow instead of letting it fade. Every successful outcome you see today was once just an idea in someone's mind. The difference is they didn't wait long enough for doubt to take over. They acted while the belief was still strong. One of the biggest misconceptions people have is that they need clarity before they begin. They believe they must have every step planned, every risk calculated, and every outcome predicted. But the truth is, clarity is not something you wait for, it is something you create through action. When you stay stuck in thinking, everything feels uncertain. The path looks unclear, the risks seem bigger, and the fear feels real. But the moment you take even a small step forward, something changes. You begin to see what works and what doesn't. You gain real feedback, not imagined fear. And with each step, the path becomes clearer. Action has a way of teaching you things that thinking never can. You can read, plan, and prepare all day, but until you actually do something, you won't truly understand what it takes. Experience is the greatest teacher, and it only comes through movement. Waiting for clarity often becomes an excuse to delay. It feels productive because you're thinking and planning, but in reality, you are standing still. Progress only happens when you move, even if the direction is not perfect at first. Every step you take reduces uncertainty. Every action you complete builds understanding. And slowly, what once felt confusing starts to make sense. Confidence begins to grow, not because everything is guaranteed, but because you are proving to yourself that you can figure things out along the way. So instead of waiting to feel ready, start where you are. Take the first step, however small it may be. Clarity will meet you on the path, not at the starting line. Discipline is often misunderstood as something that requires extreme willpower or rigid control, but in reality, it is built through small, consistent actions repeated over time. It is not about doing everything perfectly, it is about doing what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like it. The 24-hour rule becomes a powerful tool in developing this kind of discipline because it removes the option to delay. When you commit to acting within 24 hours, you train your mind to stop negotiating with excuses. You no longer allow thoughts like "I'll do it later" or "I'll start tomorrow" to take control. Instead, you create a new standard for yourself. If something matters, it gets done now. This simple rule, when applied daily, begins to reshape your behavior. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. You may resist taking action, especially when the task is difficult or unfamiliar. But every time you push through that resistance and act anyway, you strengthen your self-control. You prove to yourself that you are not controlled by mood or convenience, but by commitment. Over time, this repeated action becomes automatic. What once required effort starts to feel natural. You begin to trust yourself more because you know you follow through. That trust is the foundation of true discipline. Discipline is not built in one big moment, it is built in the small decisions you make every day. And by choosing to act within 24 hours, you turn intention into action, and action into a powerful, lasting habit. Consistency is what turns small efforts into meaningful results, yet it is the very thing most people struggle to maintain. They rely on bursts of motivation, working hard for a few days and then losing momentum just as quickly. What they fail to realize is that success is not built on intensity, it is built on consistency. The power of the 24-hour rule lies in its ability to create a daily standard. It doesn't ask you to do everything at once. It asks you to do something every single day without delay. This removes the pressure of perfection and replaces it with the habit of showing up. And when you show up daily, progress becomes inevitable. Every action you take within that 24-hour window reinforces a pattern. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who doesn't wait for the perfect mood or moment. This identity shift is powerful because your actions start aligning with who you believe you are. There will be days when you don't feel motivated. There will be moments when it feels easier to skip, to delay, or to ignore what needs to be done. But consistency means you act anyway, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Over time, these small, repeated actions compound. What once seemed insignificant begins to produce visible results. Skills improve, confidence grows, and opportunities start to appear. It all comes from the simple decision to stay consistent. You don't need to do something extraordinary once in a while. You need to do something meaningful every day. And when you commit to that, your life begins to change in ways you never imagined. Success is not a matter of luck, talent, or waiting for the perfect moment. It is a matter of action. The ideas you have, the opportunities that come your way, and the goals you set only matter if you act on them. Every delay gives doubt a chance to grow. Every hesitation allows fear to take hold. And every unexecuted plan fades into nothing. By embracing the 24-hour rule, you create a simple but powerful framework. Act now, act consistently, and act with purpose. This rule trains your mind to stop negotiating with excuses, builds discipline through repeated action, and transforms overthinking into momentum. Clarity emerges not before you begin, but because you begin. Small, decisive steps taken within this window create compounding results that can reshape your life over time. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is not intentionite, is execution. Your ideas are perishable, your time is limited, and your potential is waiting to be realized. The moment to move is now. Take action within 24 hours. Build the habit of consistent execution, and watch your life transform in ways you never thought possible. Success is a decision, and every decision matters.